Hi, my name is Melinda Smith from Noble Works, the leading provider of Enneagram workshops in Australia. This video is part of a series about this ancient tool for personality profiling and development called the Enneagram. We've partnered with Port Stephens Council in New South Wales, Australia, to share our learnings about the value of using the Enneagram as a tool for personal and organisational transformation in the workplace. The Council has made a significant commitment during the past decade to develop staff to be the best they can be by using the Enneagram. Self-awareness is a key leadership competency. Self-aware people transform themselves and their organisations. In this episode, we'll be talking about the Enneagram Type 1. I'm here with Steve Bernasconi from Port Stephens Council, who is going to share with us how the knowledge of the Enneagram has improved and helped develop relationships and performance, personally and professionally. Steve, can you just tell us a little bit about yourself?
I sure can. I've been at Port Stephens Council for about 20 years, and in that time I've had sort of 3 or 4 careers. Most recently, I'm the Communications Manager. In the recent past, I was the Community Services Manager, and before that I was involved in waste management and environmental management.
Right, so using the Enneagram, how have you used this tool with your people that you manage?
Well, I've had the fortune to look after lots of people over the years, and the Enneagram has enabled me to really understand myself first, so I can learn what stresses me, what relaxes me, so my behaviours are understood by me first. So then I can actually behave the best way possible to enable the people that work for me to get the best out of them.
Well, let's go a little bit deeper there. Tell us a little bit what it's like in the world of a Type 1.
Well, a Type 1, I think it's fantastic because it's all about perfect. It's all about the idea of perfection. And whilst to me that is a lovely feeling, the concept and the pursuit of perfection, some people I find that don't understand that concept may see it as a burden. And I suppose, to be honest, there is a little bit of a burdensome nature to the pursuit of perfection. For me though, a 1-type personality is all around doing the best you can with what you've got and trying to overcome wrongs by making them right.
So what are some of the strengths, the gifts of a Type 1 that you bring particularly to this organisation?
Well, I'd like to think that I'm thought of as being an organised person. I've been given or gifted, I call it gifted, some people say cursed. I've been given some messy jobs to deliver over the years, jobs that have taken some years to resolve, that have had many years of problems. So I've found those sort of projects exciting. I like the fact that sometimes they may seem to have no end, and I like the fact that I've been able to get them to an end point. So I like being given mess and chaos and putting it into order and then running it out to the end. So I think I'm organised. I think I'm fair, and I think I'm fairly consistent. So I think that being organised, being consistent, and having a sense of fairness, I think people come to me with their concerns, and I feel that people get a fair go if they come to me.
So what have you learned about yourself from your knowledge of the Enneagram that's helped improve your leadership and those around you?
Well, what I've learned about myself over nearly 12 years of understanding the Enneagram, first of all, is that it's okay to be wrong. It's okay to not be perfect all the time, and the pursuit of being right sometimes can be very exhausting. And I've found that can make me seem to be overcritical. That overcriticality comes across to some people as being very negative, and I've noticed that, and I've had that fed back to me. So I've had to learn from that to not be so critical of other people's work or their lack of awesomeness or their lack of absolute, and to be a little bit more forgiving with other people, but also to be a little bit more forgiving with myself. Because something I have learned about myself is I've got this voice in my head that's constantly saying, are you sure that's good enough? Are you sure that's right? And that understanding that that's actually there and is part of me has enabled me to put in some strategies to try and control that a little bit better.
And do you think sometimes your criticism as a Type 1 has been misunderstood? Because I would think Type 1s come from a sense of when they're making a criticism.
Oh, most definitely. if someone's being criticised by me, I'm coming from a place of I'm trying to help you make that better. I'm not actually pointing out a flaw. Of course, people may seem and receive that in a different way. Me understanding how people receive things from their personality type has enabled me to change how I deliver that criticism to different people so that they do see it as an opportunity to get better as opposed to just being have a flaw pointed out.
So what are some of the other key strategies as a type 1 you've been working on in particular?
Well, for 12 years I've worked on sort of the 4 aspects of me, or the 4 aspects of the human. So from a physical point of view, I've had a realisation in my mid-30s that I wasn't as fit or as abdominized as I thought I was. So I've taken on a fitness regime over a decade, and I've made it a consistent process. From an intellectual point of view, I read broadly, particularly fiction. I try to get my head into fiction and to get into a more imagined world of a better place. I love non-fiction, but fiction is where I go to broaden my mind and broaden my worldview. From a spiritual point of view, I try to get involved, and I do get involved in local community and in volunteering. And from a emotional point of view, I've made a concerted effort to spend more time with my family, with my children, not just as a taxi and an Uber service, but as someone who does things with them. So I'm fortunate enough to have 3 children who are happy to have me singing in concerts with them, acting in plays with them, and performing with them in other areas. So they're the sort of areas that I work on. Anything that can get rid of my headaches is something that I strategise for.
Well, speaking of headaches, stress and anger for a type 1, what are some of the things that trigger that for you?
Anger is a real feeling for me. It's something that's it's not always there. But it's simmering under the surface if things aren't quite correct. It sort of manifests in a blow up. Every now and then I may blow up. It doesn't happen often, but when it does, you'll know that I've had a blow up. And I will express my disappointment and anger and outrage verbally. The other ways it does manifest in me is I generally have a stiff neck, and I generally have headaches. So when I'm under stress, I'll have headaches raising from the middle of my shoulders right up my neck, right through to my eye. And the stiffness in my neck is very much part of how I roll.
So we talked about strategies before, in particular with the headaches as a type 1. Where do you go to with that? With the knowledge of the Enneagram?
Yeah, well, for me, the headaches and the stiff necks I work on through physical exercise, and I have a regime that I practice every morning, which is designed to move muscles differently and move my energy down more into my stomach and into my lower part of my body. I also have changed my diet in more recent times, in more recent years, to take on more water, which I never take on, and I should drink more water, and I do. And that helps me with some of the headache aspects of it. That and paracetamol is a great friend.
So if I'm working with a type 1, how can I build a good working relationship with you?
If you wanted to get on well with a type 1, the first way to do it is probably don't be too critical of them. That may seem like a bit of a cop-out.
A bit of a paradox.
It is a bit of a paradox. But as a type 1, I don't take kindly to criticism. It's not because I don't want to have things pointed out to become better at them, but if it's delivered in a way that is more critical than my own critic, then it won't be received well. I think people need to realise that a type 1 is their own biggest critic. So anyone who comes from outside and tries to add to that criticism isn't probably going to fare too well, because the internal critic is stronger than anyone else's.
So finally, what are your observations about the value to the organisation of the learning and applying the knowledge of the Enneagram over the years you've been working with it?
What I've seen at Port Stephens with the Enneagram being part of our leadership and management and just people management process is that by everyone having an understanding of what they are and how they operate first, they're able to then work on themselves and have a bit of a personal victory in how they operate. It's only then when you've understood yourself and had a personal victory that you're able to be successful outside of yourself and have a public victory. And I think that's where the Enneagram adds a lot of value to our organisation. We are able to, as individuals, those that have been trained and had time to understand themselves as a personality type, they're able to reflect and improve themselves with the view of understanding and improving other people and helping other people be the best they can be. So that's what I think it's done for Port Stephens Council. It's given us a management and a leadership team that is genuinely desiring of becoming better people before they become better managers.
And in the world of local government, that's quite progressive, isn't it?
Well, for me, being a 20-year stalwart, to me that's normal. I haven't seen many other examples of local government except for Port Stephens, and that's by choice. That's because this feels like the best place to be.
Steve, thank you for your time today.
Thanks, Melinda.
Join us for another episode where you can learn more about each of the 9 Enneagram personality types as people share their journey, observations and insights. Also, check out our podcast series, Understanding Your Enneagram, on iTunes or our website.